In a quiet little town, nestled among rolling green hills, there lived a boy named Jack. He was a simple and kind-hearted young man who had just completed his schooling. His life in the small town had been peaceful, surrounded by friendly faces and the comforting embrace of his loving mother, Emily. But now, a new chapter was about to begin for Jack. He had been accepted into a prestigious college in the big city. The prospect of moving to the bustling metropolis filled him with a mix of excitement and sadness. He had never been to the city before, and the idea of embarking on this new adventure was both thrilling and nerve-wracking. Jack had always dreamt of pursuing higher education and exploring the world beyond his small town. He knew that attending college in the big city was a wonderful opportunity that he couldn't pass up. The city promised new friends, exciting experiences, and the chance to follow his dreams. As he packed his bags, he couldn't help but feel a pang of sadness. He would miss the cozy, familiar streets of his hometown and the warm, home-cooked meals his mother prepared for him. Emily was his rock, his biggest supporter, and her unwavering love had been the foundation of his life. Leaving her behind was a difficult decision, and he worried about her being alone. The night before his departure, Jack sat down with his mother, their hands intertwined. He looked into her kind eyes and said, "Mom, I'm going to miss you so much. But I promise to call you every day, and I'll visit whenever I can." Mom smiled through her tears and replied, "I know, my dear. I'm so proud of you, and I want you to chase your dreams. Don't worry about me, I'll be fine. We'll always be connected in our hearts, no matter the distance." The next morning, Jack boarded a train bound for the big city. As the train chugged away from the station, he looked back at the town he had known all his life, tears glistening in his eyes. He was filled with hope for the future and love for his mother. As the train chugged into the big city, Jack's heart raced with excitement. The sprawling cityscape, filled with towering buildings and bustling streets, was a stark contrast to his peaceful hometown. He stepped off the train and made his way to the college campus. The college campus was enormous, with buildings that seemed to touch the sky. As he entered the gates, he marveled at the sight of students rushing to and fro. There were so many of them, and Jack felt a bit overwhelmed by the sheer number of new faces. For the first few days, Jack focused on getting to know the campus and settling into his dorm room. He attended orientation sessions and met a few fellow students, but none of them were girls. Jack was still hoping to meet someone special, but he knew that it would take time. In class, he found himself surrounded by students of all kinds, some eager and confident, others shy and uncertain, just like him. The professors were knowledgeable, and the courses were challenging, but Jack was determined to do his best. During lunch breaks, he sat alone in the cafeteria, observing the lively groups of students chatting and laughing. He longed to make friends, and deep down, he hoped to find a connection with someone who would make this new chapter of his life even more special. As the days turned into weeks, Jack's initial excitement began to wane. He missed the familiar comfort of his small town, and he missed his mother's warm presence. But he knew he had to persevere and give this new life a chance. As the days passed, Jack settled into his college routine. He attended classes, studied in the library, and explored the city during his free time. While he hadn't met any girls who caught his eye just yet, he was about to experience a new twist in his journey. One sunny afternoon, Jack received some good news. He was assigned a hostel room on campus. As he stepped into the room, he found himself sharing it with 3 other students. At first, he felt a bit nervous about living with people he didn't know, but those feelings quickly faded. His roommates, Mark, Tim, and Alex, were friendly and welcoming. They instantly struck up a conversation with Jack, and they all discovered common interests. Mark was a sports enthusiast, Tim loved playing the guitar, and Alex was a movie buff. They talked about their hometowns, their dreams, and their college experiences. Jack felt lucky to have such wonderful roommates. They became fast friends, and their camaraderie made his big city adventure more enjoyable. They studied together, played sports, and even explored the city as a group. Jack's initial feelings of loneliness began to fade, thanks to the warm friendships he had found. While Jack still hadn't met any girls who had captured his heart, he was content with the companionship of his new friends. They laughed, shared stories, and supported each other through the challenges of college life. They even encouraged him to be patient and open to new experiences. One sunny day, as Jack made his way to the college campus, he noticed something different. Among the students playing on the basketball court, there was a beautiful girl who caught his eye. She was unlike anyone he had seen before. Her grace and beauty were captivating. Jack couldn't help but watch her as she dribbled the basketball and took shots at the hoop. Her movements were as elegant as a dance, and her laughter rang through the air like music. He was utterly mesmerized, and he stood there, unable to look away. But, for now, Jack didn't speak to her. He was too lost in the moment, admiring her from a distance. He didn't know if he'd ever have the courage to approach her. The fear of being rejected and the thought of making a fool of himself held him back. As he continued to observe her from afar, he couldn't help but wonder about her. Who was this beautiful girl, and what was her story? He knew that he had to find a way to muster the courage to talk to her. However, at that moment, he was content with the simple joy of watching her play. With each passing day, the image of the beautiful girl on the basketball court remained etched in Jack's mind. His heart fluttered every time he saw her, and he couldn't wait to see her again. Jack couldn't get the beautiful girl he had seen on the basketball court out of his mind. He wanted to know more about her, to find out who she was, and maybe even build the courage to speak to her. Luckily, his new friends, Mark, Tim, and Alex, were more than willing to help. One day, while hanging out with his roommates, Jack couldn't contain his curiosity any longer. He decided to confide in them. "Guys, I can't stop thinking about that girl on the basketball court. Do you know anything about her?" Mark, always quick to gather information, said, "Oh, you mean Joanna, right? She's the daughter of the richest man in the city. Her dad is a big-time businessman." Tim chimed in, "Yeah, Joanna's family is quite well known here. They own a bunch of companies and have a fancy house in the posh part of town." Alex added, "She's a real catch, man. I heard she's also really smart and down to earth, despite all the money." Jack's heart sank a little upon hearing this. He realized that Joanna came from a completely different world, one that was far removed from his own humble background. Her status and wealth made him feel a little out of place. He wasn't sure if he should pursue this newfound attraction, but he couldn't deny the strong pull he felt. As he gathered more information about Joanna, he also learned about the challenges that came with dating someone from such a different social stratum. Jack knew he had to tread carefully and thoughtfully if he ever wanted to get to know her. One sunny afternoon, Jack decided to sit at the basketball court. He figured watching the game would be a good way to catch a glimpse of Joanna once again. And, as luck would have it, Joanna arrived at the court to practice her basketball skills. As Joanna began to dribble the basketball and take her shots, Jack couldn't help but smile. He was amazed by her dedication and how her grace and beauty extended to the basketball court. But something else caught his attention. Joanna seemed to be struggling with her shooting technique. Joanna tried to make a few baskets, but the ball often missed the mark. It was clear she needed someone to help her. Jack saw this as his opportunity to approach her and possibly strike up a conversation. Drawing on his own experience as a basketball champion back in his small town, Jack decided to offer his assistance. He walked up to Joanna and said, "Hey, I couldn't help but notice you're working on your shot. Would you like some tips? I used to play basketball a lot back in my hometown." Joanna looked up, surprised by the offer, and smiled warmly. "I'd appreciate that," she said. "I'm still learning, and any help would be great." Over the next hour, Jack patiently guided Joanna, showing her the proper technique for shooting the basketball. He demonstrated the right stance, the perfect arc, and the follow-through. Joanna listened attentively and tried to mimic his actions. As they worked together, Jack and Joanna began to talk about their backgrounds, their college experiences, and their dreams for the future. Jack was pleasantly surprised to find that Joanna was not just beautiful and wealthy but also kind-hearted and down-to-earth. Her smile and laughter put him at ease, and he felt a genuine connection forming between them. The next day at college, Jack was hanging out with his friends Mark, Tim, and Alex when something unexpected happened. They were chatting and laughing when, from afar, Jack spotted Joanna. She gave him a friendly wave and a big smile, accompanied by a little hand gesture to say hi. Jack's friends were utterly surprised by this. They exchanged astonished looks and nudged Jack playfully. Mark whispered, "Hey, Jack, is that the girl you were telling us about?" Jack nodded with a wide grin. "Yes, that's Joanna. We met the other day at the basketball court, and I helped her with her shot." Tim chimed in, "Seems like she remembers you, buddy. You must have made quite an impression." Alex added, "Looks like things are looking up for you, Jack." Jack blushed but was overjoyed by Joanna's friendly gesture. He returned her wave with enthusiasm, and a warm feeling of excitement washed over him. It was a simple hi, but it meant a lot to him. As the days passed, Jack and Joanna's interactions became more frequent. They met for more basketball practice, and they started spending time together beyond the court. Jack's friends noticed the growing connection between them and couldn't be happier for him. Jack, being new to the big city, was eager to explore everything it had to offer. He decided to take a chance and ask Joanna if she could show him around. With a smile, he said, "Joanna, I've never really explored this city. Would you be willing to show me some of your favorite places?" Joanna's eyes lit up with excitement as she replied, "Of course, Jack. I'd love to show you around. There are so many amazing places to see and things to do here." So, on a bright, sunny weekend, Jack and Joanna set out to discover the city together. They visited museums, parks, and famous landmarks. They strolled through vibrant neighborhoods, tasted delicious street food, and took in the city's unique energy. Jack was grateful for Joanna's company and the chance to experience the city through her eyes. She was not only a wonderful guide but also a great companion. They shared stories, dreams, and laughter as they explored the bustling streets and quiet corners of the city. As the day turned to evening and they watched the sunset from a scenic viewpoint, Jack realized that his decision to move to the big city had brought him not only new friends and love but also a deeper connection with the place itself. After a day of exploring the city together, Joanna decided to drop Jack off at the college hostel. It was a silent, starry night, and the college grounds were peaceful. As they parked near the hostel entrance, neither Jack nor Joanna spoke. They both knew that the day had been special, and something unspoken lingered in the air. As Joanna leaned closer, their eyes met, and in that quiet moment, she gently kissed Jack on his lips. It was a soft, sweet kiss that held a promise of affection and feelings they had both been harboring. The night seemed to stand still as they shared this tender and unexpected moment. When they finally broke the kiss, Jack's heart raced with a mix of surprise and happiness. He couldn't help but smile as he looked into Joanna's eyes, his feelings for her now clear and mutual. Joanna whispered softly, "Jack, I've had an amazing day with you. I didn't expect to feel this way, but I really like you." Jack replied, "Joanna, I feel the same. This has been the best day of my life." The night when Joanna kissed Jack was a moment he would treasure forever. It was a kiss that held a world of meaning, and it left him feeling like he was floating on a cloud. But that kiss also brought a rush of emotions that made it impossible for Jack to sleep. He lay in his bed in the college hostel, staring up at the ceiling in the dark. His heart was still racing from the sweetness of Joanna's kiss, and his mind was filled with thoughts of her. Every little detail of that moment replayed in his head like a cherished memory. Jack couldn't help but smile to himself as he thought about Joanna's soft lips and her warm, affectionate gaze. He remembered the way the night had been so still and quiet, as if the world had held its breath to witness their connection. His roommates noticed Jack's restlessness, but he couldn't bring himself to tell them about the magical kiss he had shared with Joanna. Instead, he lay in his bed, the events of the day replaying in his mind like a beautiful, never-ending dream. As the night turned to morning, Jack finally drifted off to sleep, still smiling, knowing that something special had begun between him and Joanna. He couldn't wait to see her again and discover where their journey would lead. The next day, Jack woke up with a newfound determination. The kiss from Joanna had left a deep impression on him, and he knew that he couldn't keep his feelings to himself any longer. He wanted to be honest with her, to share his heart and his dreams. So, with a mix of excitement and nervousness, Jack found Joanna and took a deep breath. He said, "Joanna, there's something I need to tell you. I can't stop thinking about you, and the time we've spent together has been incredible. I want to be with you, Joanna, and I hope that we can have a future together. I want to marry you someday." Joanna, taken aback by Jack's words, became completely silent and shocked. Her eyes widened as she tried to process what he had just said. She hadn't expected such a bold and heartfelt declaration. For a moment, she didn't know how to respond. Jack's heart raced as he waited for Joanna's reply. He feared he had moved too quickly, but he couldn't hold back his feelings any longer. The silence in that moment felt like an eternity, and he hoped with all his heart that Joanna would share the same feelings and dreams. Finally, Joanna broke the silence, her voice filled with emotion. "Jack, I'm not sure what to say. This is all so unexpected." Jack understood her shock, and he replied, "I understand, Joanna. I didn't mean to rush things. I just wanted to be honest about my feelings. I care about you a lot, and I wanted you to know." When Jack had proposed to Joanna, he had bared his heart and soul, hoping to share his dreams and his love with her. But, to his surprise and disappointment, Joanna had rejected his proposal. She didn't give any reasons or explanations, which left Jack puzzled and hurt. In the days that followed, Jack couldn't stop thinking about Joanna's rejection. He understood that relationships could be complex, but the silence and lack of explanation bothered him. He couldn't shake the feeling that Joanna was keeping something from him, something she wasn't willing to reveal. Jack was determined to find out the reasons behind Joanna's decision. He had to know what had led her to say no, and why she was being so mysterious about it. It was clear that there was something on Joanna's mind, something she hadn't shared with him, and it gnawed at Jack's heart. He decided to approach Joanna again, this time asking gently, "Joanna, I respect your decision, but I can't help but wonder why you said no. If there's something you're not telling me, please know that I'm here to listen and understand. I care about you, and I want to know what's going on in your heart." Joanna looked at him with a mix of emotions, and for a moment, it seemed like she might open up. But then, she hesitated and said, "Jack, it's complicated. I can't explain it right now, but please trust that I have my reasons." Jack nodded, feeling a sense of frustration and confusion. He respected Joanna's feelings and her right to keep her thoughts private, but the mystery of her rejection weighed heavily on his mind. He couldn't help but wonder if there was more to their story that he had yet to discover. After some time had passed, Joanna felt an urge to share the reasons behind her rejection with Jack. She realized that she owed him an explanation, and her heart ached with the need to be open and honest. So, one day, she called Jack on his mobile phone and asked if he could meet her at a quiet spot near a tree on the college campus. Jack, curious and anxious to finally understand, agreed to meet Joanna. They found a serene spot under a tall tree, where the leaves rustled in the gentle breeze, creating a sense of calm. As they sat down, Joanna took a deep breath and began to speak. "Jack, I owe you an explanation for my rejection. It's not because I don't care about you or because I don't see a future with you. In fact, it's quite the opposite." Jack looked at Joanna, his eyes filled with a mixture of curiosity and understanding. He nodded, silently urging her to continue. Joanna continued, "You see, my family has certain expectations and pressures on me. My father, being a wealthy businessman, has plans for my future that involve the family business. He expects me to take on a significant role in it, and my marriage has always been something he wanted to arrange for the sake of business alliances and connections." Jack listened intently, beginning to piece together the puzzle. He realized that Joanna's rejection wasn't about her feelings for him, but the complicated world she came from. Joanna continued, "I care about you deeply, Jack. But I'm caught in this dilemma between following my own heart and fulfilling my family's expectations. It's a difficult position to be in, and I hope you can understand why I had to say no." Jack, though saddened by the circumstances, nodded in empathy. He knew that love stories didn't always follow a simple path, and sometimes, external pressures and expectations could create obstacles that were hard to overcome. Joanna had just revealed the complexity of her situation to Jack under the serene tree on the college campus. She shared how her father, a wealthy businessman, had high expectations for her. He intended to arrange a marriage with his business partner's son, a decision driven by business connections and family alliances. But Joanna had more to tell. She continued, "Jack, there's something else you need to know. I've grown up in a home where my parents have always quarreled. Our house was big, but it was never a happy home. I've seen the pain that can come from an unhappy marriage, and it's made me skeptical about getting married myself." Jack listened, his heart going out to Joanna as he comprehended the weight of her family's expectations and her own apprehensions about marriage. He was starting to grasp the complex web of emotions and pressures that had led to her initial rejection. Joanna's eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. "I wanted to make my own choices in life, but my father's wishes and the fear of a loveless marriage have made me hesitant to commit to something I'm not sure about." Jack, feeling a deep empathy for Joanna's situation, said, "Joanna, I understand your predicament, and I appreciate your honesty. It's clear that you're in a difficult position, and I respect your feelings and your choices." Jack, after hearing Joanna's heart-wrenching story and the complexities she faced, couldn't help but feel a deep desire to be with her. He knew that her fears and family pressures had made her cautious about marriage, but he wanted to reassure her. One more time, Jack looked into Joanna's eyes and said, "Joanna, I want you to know that I'm not the type of person who would ever want to make you unhappy. I promise you that our home would be a place filled with love and joy, not fighting and conflict. We can work together to build a happy and peaceful life." Joanna's eyes held a mix of gratitude and doubt as she responded, "Jack, I appreciate your words, but the thought of marriage is still daunting for me. My parents' unhappy marriage has left scars on my heart, and I'm scared of making the same mistakes." Jack nodded and then added, "Joanna, I understand your reservations, and I respect your feelings. The decision of whom to marry should be completely yours. You're the one who has to spend the rest of your life with that person. It's your happiness and your future that matter most." Joanna felt a sense of warmth and understanding in Jack's words. She was deeply moved by his unwavering support and his promise of a happy home. While she wasn't ready to make a decision just yet, Jack's reassurances and his willingness to let her take the lead in her own life were touching. In the days that followed their heartfelt conversation, Joanna couldn't help but think about what Jack had told her. His promise of a happy home and his respect for her choices had struck a chord deep within her heart. As she navigated her busy life in a big city, her thoughts often drifted to Jack. She remembered their time spent exploring the city, sharing stories under the tree, and the warmth of his words. With each passing day, her feelings for him grew stronger, and she realized just how much she loved him. Joanna's heart longed for Jack's presence, and she found it increasingly difficult to spend even a day without speaking to him. Their connection had become an essential part of her life, and she yearned to be with him, to share her thoughts and dreams with the person who had come to mean so much to her. One evening, as the city lights shimmered in the distance, Joanna picked up her phone and called Jack. Their conversation was filled with laughter, stories, and tender moments. It was during that call that Joanna realized that Jack was not just someone she cared for deeply, but the one she wanted to spend her life with. As she hung up the phone, her heart felt light, and the city seemed to hold a little more magic. As days turned into weeks, Joanna's love for Jack continued to grow stronger. She couldn't imagine a day without him, and her heart longed to be with the person who had come to mean so much to her. One beautiful evening, under the soft glow of city lights, Joanna decided to share her feelings with Jack. She called him and said, "Jack, I've thought a lot about what you said, and I realize how much I love you. I want to be with you, and I want us to have a happy life together." Jack's heart leapt with joy as he heard Joanna's words. He knew that this moment was the culmination of their unique love story, a journey filled with understanding, trust, and the promise of happiness. He smiled and replied, "Joanna, I love you too, more than anything in this world. I promise that we'll have a wonderful life together, filled with love and laughter." Joanna took a deep breath and whispered, "Jack, I accept your proposal. I want to marry you." With Joanna's heartfelt yes, Jack's heart was filled with joy. He knew that their love was real and that they were meant to be together. Jack and Joanna's love story had taken them through ups and downs, but they had emerged stronger and more connected than ever. Their promise to each other was to build a future filled with love, happiness, and understanding. As they looked ahead, hand in hand, the big city stretched before them, full of opportunities and adventures. Their journey was just beginning, but they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way, knowing that their love was the foundation that would see them through. For more interesting videos, subscribe to this channel, and do not forget to press the bell icon, so that you get a notification when we upload a new video. Do you like this video? See you in the next video. Till then, take care.